Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining me here.
Not at all, it's a privilege.
Yeah, and I think you had mentioned you've been coming now to the AdvaMed conference for how long?
15 years.
15 years.
So I've seen a lot of change and development, and it never gets tired, and it's really exciting to be here this year.
Yeah.
Well, my first AdvaMed was actually the one that never happened on 9/11. So we were so well looked after by the folks in Washington, D.C. I actually lived there subsequently afterwards, but I'll always have a very great personal affinity for DC as a city, US as a country, and this conference particularly. It was one of those moments in your life we'll all remember where we were, of course.
Yes, yeah, that's very true. I don't think anybody will ever forget that one for sure. So what has you focus on coming here, and does this help ideate or create some sort of modeling for what we're doing over in the UK?
Yes, absolutely. 7 years ago, the UK people decided that they would leave the European Union. That process has been challenging as we've tried to understand as a nation. So what does that freedom mean as being a technically third country? The relationship with AdvaMed in particular is significant because as we look outside of the UK, most global policy will be formed in headquarters. That, for me, relates to AdvaMed. And that's why this show is very important for us. Specifically, regulation. Regulation for any device business, a diagnostic company, is the make or break of entering a market. We've always been tied for the last 40-something years to the European Union and in recent years to the CE mark. That's become a very challenging process for the industry with the implementation of MDR and the soon-to-arrive IVDR for diagnostics. What we've been able to do as the UK is reflect on what are the opportunities globally, and we had a significant moment in March this year when our Chancellor stood up in his budget speech and said that the UK will now move towards a reliance model of regulation with other trusted jurisdictions, meaning the FDA primarily. And that's a huge enabler for small businesses. I chair a small company, and it's terrific if we could actually get FDA accreditation, do our clinicals in the UK, and come to the biggest market in the world, as opposed to doing a CE mark, which applies to Europe, but it's really difficult and complex and unpredictable. So that's significant in terms of the opportunity. I think for US companies, they found that no longer do they go to the EU first with innovation because of the CE mark. They are bringing that, and have done, back domestically, FDA first. The opportunity now becomes for them to bring their innovation to the UK, where you have the biggest socialised medicine system in the world and a very fertile ground for clinical trials, real-world evidence, and preeminent organisations in health technology assessment, like NICE. Richard, any thoughts I've missed there?
What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of the conference, I think what I would say, we've got a big delegation of UK officials here. There's 15 people from the UK government have come out and they've been talking to companies. Peter hosted a session on Sunday evening with a panel to talk about what's going on in the UK back home. Some really exciting developments, including regulation. As you say, Peter, a new programme we've got to try and get new technologies in quickly, our approach to health technology assessment, and also the research, the tremendous opportunities for research there are in the UK. So that's been that's a real marker how important this conference is, that the folks took the time to come over here, and as well as a session, they've been speaking on panels on regulation, market access, and they've had meetings with over 20 companies just a one-to-one and get close and personal about what are the opportunities in the UK. So it's a really exciting time for us, and Peter's right, we've got past the Brexit thing now. We've got to figure out what the opportunities are, and I think there are plenty.
And what's interesting too is, I'd say over the last 7-8 years, I've noticed the technologies coming out of the UK here to the US seem to have been liberated somehow. And some of this may be, the causation of it, but not exclusively, because historically, especially England, has been great minds, great universities, right? But the thinking in the white papers got put in a drawer and never saw the light of day. And then somehow either venture money, investments, or entrepreneurs, and maybe all the above. You know, I think of Elliott Street, I think of Nadine Hashasharam, I think of, you know, people like that spending as much time in the US now, bringing these technologies over and being embraced by the US market very quickly. So what has been your perspective of how come that's happened? To me, it's become the new Israel of technology, especially on the digital front coming over.
So I think there was a couple of things that have occurred. We've had a series of government and industry reviews. The most recent version of that is a life science vision, which has really engaged the whole life science sector, and therefore particularly for us, with digital and data-enabled tech, along with traditional devices. About 10 years ago, I think it was, Richard, we had a London Health Commission led by Lord Aradazi, a preeminent surgeon and entrepreneur in his own right. And I worked for ARA on that commission, and it was a start in London of energising industry to think more assertively and to provide more support structures domestically around innovation. The NHS itself has also done a lot of work on this. They created 15 academic health science networks, kind of a mix between health science system here and the delivery model. And they've been enabling this to happen too. So I think it's fair to say that the whole ecosystem has been turbo boosted.
Yeah, I think it's not happened by accident. I mean, your comments are really incisive and very perceptive. So Peter talks about the AHSN's, Academic Health Science Networks. So they came out of a document in 2011 called Innovation, Health and Wealth, which was the Department of Health's response to the Prime Minister at the time, David Cameron's challenge for all government spending departments to say how they were going to contribute to economic growth in our country. And the foreword for that was really interesting because you might have written it yourself. It says the NHS is great at invention but really poor at adoption. So the HSN was set up to be an innovation adoption mechanism for the NHS. Now they've been refreshed, they've been renamed, they've taken out the academic, they're going to be known as Health Innovation Networks, and we think they'll get them back to their intended purpose back in 2011 of being that really adoption innovation. But this hasn't happened by accident. We've recognised our strengths. I mean, you talked about invention and white papers. You know, nowhere on the planet can get close to Cambridge when it comes to basic science. And I think we've recognised that. And there's a real impetus now to try and start scaling British companies. And I think that's what you're seeing.
And the entrepreneurial spirit coming out of England especially is profound. You know, pound for pound, again, I'm going to compare it to, as I have for 30 years with Israel, is the talent, the intensity. In fact, we found it, and this is a question, we found it so robust that we have just opened up our second office in England. So we're up way north, right? Newcastle, right? And
that's way north. Yeah,
right, that's way north, but they work harder there than London, but that's my opinion, right? They come from steel workers, mining, and that generationally, to all my London friends, I'm just kidding. But what should US business builders think about on not waiting for the UK to come here, but why would we not take some of our technology over there? What benefits would we have if not but for?
Well, I think Richard's mentioned the rebranding of the academic health science networks. There's 15 of them. They provide a landing zone on a population base of 2 to 3 million people, ideal for early work. I think the other thing is that cities in the UK, outside of London, you mentioned Newcastle, have become very active. And they have got that entrepreneurial spirit. They're welcoming businesses in. And there's a real sense of dealing with the population in a preventative manner and at a population level, as opposed to it just being a sick system in the NHS. So technology is being really welcomed, and it's a supermarket to come and do this work. You know, we have the assets. We've talked about NICE. We are going to have enabling regulation to let those companies come freely. And we have an NHS that's backed by a government that is really being pro-industry and pro-innovation. You know, we have a job that's there to challenge government and hold it to account. We do that, and we're very proud to do that for the industry. But there is a sense that the government has moved some way here.
You know, it's really interesting too, you bring it up. When we picked Newcastle as one of our locations, the biosphere's up there. that there are two very large facilities that you have to either be biotech, medtech, or health tech related. Preferred facilities, certainly preferred rent. You're surrounded when you walk out. It's like being in Silicon Valley. You've got really bright people, very progressive, gorgeous buildings in the middle of a lovely legacy city, of course. And we see that everywhere when we go through England in those areas.
Yeah, and you've got Newcastle is a great place to go. I mean, it's a great city, but
good football squad too.
Yeah.
But it's. I'm a Tottenham fan.
Well, Hotspurs are okay, but yeah.
I won't give you my thoughts on soccer. But no, it's the healthcare system is really joined up there as well. They've got a really good footprint. They've got a lot of trust in each other. So you go to Newcastle, but you've got access in the joined up healthcare system to like 4 million people, and other cities are the same. Birmingham, where I live, it's tremendous. They've got 6 million people within 60 square miles, and it's the demographic of the world. It's Birmingham is probably one of the most diverse cities in the world, and it's stable populations. It's a great place to do research. And again, as I said before, none of this happened by accident. The life sciences is a chosen sector. The life sciences vision that Peter referred to, not every sector has got one. We used to have a department for industrial strategy. They don't like talking about industrial strategy now. It sounds a bit kind of Soviet, but they call out a few sectors, and life sciences is one of them. So there's great places to go. We'll give you access to the healthcare system as well. And you call out Newcastle is right, but Leeds are doing great stuff. Birmingham I mentioned, Manchester, they're all doing really great things.
And so from the US.
Can I just finish
yes,
on this
please.
one? Because I think there's something else in there. We've changed from just working direct with the government to working direct with city regions. So we have a number of MOUs, memorandums of understanding, which is totally focused on innovation and innovation adoption for the benefits of a local population. And we do that with Cambridge, Birmingham, Leeds, Manchester, Nottingham. Newcastle, I think, is on the radar to be done. And also outside of England, if you look at the central belt of Scotland and then further up the east coast, you've got tremendous universities that are doing a lot. Big health innovation building in Glasgow. We do some work in Texas, in Austin. Health innovation building in Glasgow downtown looks exactly the same as the one in Austin. Everyone would recognise Austin as a centre for innovation, maybe not yet internationally Glasgow, but it's there and enabling. Yeah. Same is true of Edinburgh. Our colleague here, Eleanor Charlesy, is leading our work in Scotland. Terrific place. Same would be true for South Wales, and also Richard looks after Northern Ireland for us.
Yeah, but Belfast has got a real legacy of in digital and cyber security. It's known as world leading. It's a great place to do. And I think to your point, we kind of borrowed on the US model. It's taken us a while to get there. But the Labour government in 1997 wanted to set up mayors for the regions and didn't necessarily go down well, but we're getting there. We've got a number of metro mayors now, so we're really recognising the importance of cities and that regional identity. So yeah, Newcastle, really strong regional identity. Manchester, really strong regional identity. They've got their own metro mayors. They're real places to go. And I think we borrowed from the US on that. And there's really close linkages.
Yeah, and I think that your original question in there about the US coming to the UK, we are seeing a growing rhythm of that happening. This year we're partnering with Stanford Medicine from California coming over. We've had Dallas recently. We've got Jacksonville on a second visit. We were meeting some folk yesterday from Charleston who want to come. There is probably not a month going by, but we're working with them to curate a visit and understand the opportunity in the market.
Oh, fantastic. And I love to see that collaboration back and forth between the countries. It does nothing but elevate the technologies, the people, and the talent.
Cross-sector as well. I mean, our industry has all been about tech transfer. I used to work for Medtronic. There was a guy who was an electrical engineer, and a surgeon asked him to build a device which didn't rely on mains electricity. So we're all about tech transfer. So I think we're seeing a lot, particularly as you get into the digital space. Even things you might not think about, like financial services, fintech, and particularly how you might regulate them. We're trying to figure out how do you regulate AI and digital devices, and the guys in fintech saying, well, we've always done this, it's simple. You've either got a physical product or you've got a digital product, and your approach to regulation varies accordingly. So that's been really good to see. And those cities are coming together. They're bringing cross-sector, cross-industry sectors to share the learning, something you've obviously always done really well in this country, of course.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing the story.
Pleasure.
And our countries working again together for something greater than all of us. Appreciate it.
Look
Thank
forward
you.
to
Thank you.
working with you. Cheers.
I'm Joe Mullings from the floor of the MedTech conference in Anaheim. Be well.